Hello, Internet. I am Pastor Recoil, and welcome to my parish. Today is Ascension Sunday, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome to Pastor Recoil's Parish, where I talk about some things in the Bible that you may not have heard about in church, either because it's not quite appropriate for all audiences, or it just isn't something that's easy to talk about in a sermon. Today's readings for Ascension Sunday are Acts 1, 1-11, Psalm 47, Ephesians 1, 15-23, and Luke 24, 44-53. Today, we're going to talk about what Jesus' ascension means for us right now. See, the ascension is the last thing Jesus does. The actual feast which commemorates this event was actually this past Thursday, exactly 40 days after Easter. But we celebrate it the following Sunday in large part because it's hard to get people in church on a random Thursday. The Ascension is only recorded in Luke's Gospel and in Acts, and it's the event that ties the two books together. Matthew's and John's Gospels both record some similar statements from Jesus, this commission to go out and the promise or receipt of the Holy Spirit, but Luke gives the most detailed version. Jesus tells his disciples that they're going to preach about him to all nations, but to wait until something happens. That something is going to happen on Pentecost next Sunday. So we'll talk about that a little more then, and if you're watching from the future, there'll be a card over somewhere. But then, as Jesus is talking to the disciples, he goes up to heaven and leaves all the disciples behind. And before he does, there's an interesting question Jesus' disciples ask. They say, "Lord, are you going to return the kingdom to Israel now?" Even after everything that's happened, all of the things that they've seen, they're still thinking of Jesus as someone who's going to ride into Jerusalem and conquer. But that's not who Jesus is. That's something that comes later. And if you look at Revelation 19, when that time comes and Jesus is presented as a conqueror, there's not much of a fight. Jesus just kind of wins. But Jesus has a response to the disciples, and his response is interesting. And it brings us around to really the whole point. Jesus says, don't worry about all of that. Instead, you're going to be the ones to tell my story, from Jerusalem into Judea and Samaria and even the whole world. Now, the disciples didn't really know what Jesus was saying yet. I don't think they really got it until a week and a half later when the Holy Spirit came on Pentecost. But when they did get it, they really got it, because they started to live out the kinds of things that Jesus said and did. They worked for the good of the community around them as well as for their own good. They sought to remedy harms when they saw them. And when asked, they told Jesus' story, and with it the whole story of God and God's people. That's the important thing for us who are trying to live as God's people. We're essentially storytellers. We tell the stories that we have recorded for us in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, but we also tell our own story of our experiences with God and the love that God has for all humanity. With Jesus having ascended into heaven, he leaves it to us to tell this story. Not to force it on people. Often doing that can cause harm that we're so trying to avoid, and it usually isn't all that loving. But we offer it when someone asks. And that's our job now as followers of Jesus. The thing that Jesus left for us to do when he ascended is the things that he did. To show love to anyone we encounter, to actively seek to limit the harms that we cause to one another, and to tell Jesus' story to those who want to hear it. So if you want to see more content like this, check out the links to my right, or click the logo just below my face to subscribe so you'll know when my next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and take the time this week to love your neighbor as yourself, especially if you don't like them all that much.